We'll see you then, David. Thanks. Well, starting next year, Grand Chute residents will pay an extra $30 as the latest community in our area to adopt a wheel tax.
However, the tax does not mean special assessments on road projects will disappear, but the town board could make provisions. Today, I asked about the numbers.
While Grand Chute will soon join other communities across the state in having a wheel tax, it won't replace the need for special assessments.
The wheel tax is estimated to bring in somewhere in the vicinity of $620,000. That amount is only about 12.5% of what we believe the average of our borrowing package would be for capital road improvements per year.
State transportation officials estimate more than 20,700 vehicles are housed primarily in Grand Chute. In approving the wheel tax during a meeting Tuesday night, town officials also cited a recent strategic planning survey of residents where 47% of respondents expressed some level of dissatisfaction with the condition of town roads. Former board chair and resident Jason Van Eperen tells us he's not against the wheel tax, but questions the process. In a statement, he told us, quote, "My issue is with the board not doing their due diligence by asking permission from the residents if they're willing to pay an extra tax to cover town expenses," end quote. The interim town administrator expects the board to discuss special assessments moving forward.
They also asked staff to make some revisions to the special assessment policy without any commitment to whether they were planning on special assessing in the future. So what that tells me is that there will be a discussion on special assessments at some point in the future.
56 other municipalities and 14 counties across the state also have a wheel tax with fees of $10 to $50 per year. This includes Green Bay, Appleton, and Oshkosh.